Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us in today's webinar. And we are joined today on your screen by Tom Jamison from Zoom, and you'll also see Shashini on your screen as well. So based on the planning session we had yesterday, this webinar is going to be an absolute belter. If you don't have a pen and paper, I suggest you go and get one because you're going to need multiple pages with all the golden nuggets you are going to take out of this session. We have had 700 people register for the event, so clearly it is an important topic, and we will ensure that you're going to take an enormous amount of value out of today. With a huge amount of job opportunities never being advertised, you would have heard us talk about this a lot, that the hidden job market is the place where you need to play. Many international students can be at disadvantage because accessing that hidden job market can be difficult, but it's only difficult if you don't know what you're doing. And so we will talk a little bit about that today. One way to do that is increasing your professional network. And it's why one of the reasons we've got Shashini joining us today. When people say, you probably hear Dom say it a lot, that you need to get to 500 connections on LinkedIn. And when someone's only got 10, they think, well, how the hell can I do that? I can't get to 500. Well, wait till you hear what Shashini has been able to achieve in a very short amount of time. Your professional connections are very valuable resources for business referrals, employment opportunities, career advice and support. And we'll definitely talk about that with Tom because Tom has personally employed international students, but also created a lot of opportunities within his professional network for international students and graduates to get hired within his own professional network. It can be difficult and overwhelming to build these networks, particularly when you're not from Australia, because you're starting from a lower base than, say, someone like myself that was born in Australia. It can be intimidating, but we are going to look at ways to make it easier for you, and particular focus on communication today. Doesn't matter where in the world you live or what you're doing in life, personal life, professional life, communication is the most important thing, I believe. Dom has heard me say it a lot, but there is nothing that cannot be resolved without communication. And so learning how to communicate in the right way to the right stakeholders, to the right people at the right time is incredibly important. For those that don't know me, I am Jared Holland and a founder at Outcome.Life, and also on your screen in a black shirt is my business partner, Dominic Saporito. We founded Outcome.Life in 2015 with the mission to help international students pursue their career-related employment. We run lots of networking events, we run a webinar series, we do internship placements, we run a pre-accelerator for anyone who wants to start a business, so a startup pre-accelerator, and industry-based projects. Basically, we try to connect international students with industry, and when I say try, we do a pretty good job of it. I think Dom and Tom have already been very interested in looking at your comments in the page, in the chat section, just about what you're studying. But what we'd also like to hear from you in the chat section is what's some of the biggest pain points or stresses that you have when it comes to communication, particularly in a professional environment. Throw that in the chat section. We'll make sure that we address that. Today's webinar is brought to you and made possible by the very great hardworking people at Study New South Wales. Study New South Wales was established by the New South Wales government in 2014 to look after international students while studying in New South Wales, and not just Sydney, but regional New South Wales as well. One of the key pillars is to deliver strategies and programs to improve the experiences of international students, and they've been working tirelessly, particularly during this COVID-19 crisis, just to ensure that international students are being looked after. So we very much appreciate the work of Study New South Wales. Tom, on your screen there is the CEO of various technology businesses in Australia, United States, Africa, and Asia. He didn't put this in his profile, but he is an exceptional business person. And what I find most impressive about Tom is he has an unbelievable ability to get the most out of other people. And I think that's a really good sign of a good leader, in that leaders have to get the most out of others in their team or the people around them in order to build a valuable organization. You can't do it all yourself. And from senior people to junior people, Tom is one of the best that we've seen in terms of being able to empower and enable people to get the best out of themselves. He's currently the COO of Zoom Australia, which is a fintech business operating in North America, South America, and Australia. He has a master's in management from Harvard University. And most excitingly, Tom mentioned before, has hired many, many international students, directly hired them into his businesses, and also helped many international students and graduates get jobs within his network. And one of those people is Shashini, who is with us today, who did an internship with Zayzoon, and as of yesterday has received 6 job offers. I don't want to steal your thunder, Shashini, but due to the mentoring from Tom in doing simple things like updating LinkedIn and communicating what she wants to do with her career, 6 job offers during a global pandemic. It is absolutely amazing, and we're going to hear a bit more about that a bit later. A couple of other interesting things about Tom. One that I love is that Tom is a lifelong learner. We all need to be lifelong learners. So don't think that you do a 3-year degree and that's it. You will be learning your entire life, and you need to develop a real hunger to keep learning because the world changes fast. He's lived in cities such as Paris, Tokyo, London, and LA. You didn't have a movie career in LA, did you, Tom? I don't think.
Didn't make it.
Right. I'm sorry about that.
Couldn't go.
He loves art, loves reading, and loves Formula One. So hopefully you're a Ricardo fan.
Yep, love Dan. He's a great.
Good. So that is enough from me. We are going to start with Tom, and I don't think Dom and I will get another word in for the next hour, but that's okay because Tom's words are purely exceptional. But first, Tom, a question we've been asking as part of these webinars is sort of how you found the COVID-19 situation. We know it's here, so how have you dealt with it, and how are things going for you guys?
Yeah. Well, obviously COVID-19 was unexpected and far from ideal, and in Victoria it's been pretty difficult. But we sort of decided to make the most of it and tried with our team at work and everyone in our personal lives at home. I've got 2 kids and they're doing school from home, but we've really tried to make it a time when as a family we come together and spend sort of more quality time with each other, given that we can't do other things. And similarly at work, we've had to go to working remotely. Communication becomes all the more important. And so we've had to put in place some practices to make sure that people all feel like they're together. We have lots of shared meetings with everyone in the business, sometimes out of hours, sometimes on the weekends, where we can all get together and just chat about stuff outside of work. And for all of the international students out there, a lot of whom you're living away from your families, and you don't have the same support networks that you might have when you're at home. I'd say make sure you try and do some of that. Just actively get together with your friends via Zoom and talk to each other, help each other, and also make sure you get outside. Like spend that hour a day exercising, walking, because just sitting in a room looking at the same 4 walls, it's just not good for anyone. So get out and particularly as the weather's getting a little bit better now, walk around and explore your neighbourhood on foot.
Tom, you mentioned then remote working and Zoom. Going forward, I think it's going to be a part of the normal work life. And the reason why I raise this is that, we've had chats with a number of different students and graduates that might be looking at having to do a remote internship or remote work. And they think, well, that's not relevant. I mean, my view of this is, well, it is relevant because that's a world we're going to live in after this, where people won't go back to the office 5 days a week. How important is it as a graduate or an intern to be able to operate in a remote environment inside a business?
Well, very important. And to just tell you how important it is, Shashini and I have never met each other face to face. The only way that I've met Shashini is over Zoom, and I'm very much looking forward to meeting her in real rather than in virtual. But yeah, I think it is going to change the way that business operates. I think lots of things will change as a result of the pandemic, and I sort of, in some ways, our business has been a little bit harder to operate because we're working remotely. But in other ways, I think that you can actually be more productive. There's less distractions than you sometimes have at the office. There are less unnecessary meetings. So I suspect we'll see a real hybrid, particularly over the next 18 months as the whole of, hopefully, COVID settles down. So we're partially back at work, but still partially working from home. And I'd suggest if you can do your internship now and you can do it via Zoom, then it's a very, very good idea. As quickly as possible, get in and get going on an internship.
And Tom, do you have any tips then for how, so let's play this out, right? I'm going to start an internship. I'm going to be working from home. The whole business is working from home.
Yeah.
What tips do you have to help me feel part of the team, or that I'm adding value, or that I'm doing the right work, or, how I used in an office environment, someone would walk past my desk and I'd say, hey, Tom, I'm struggling with this, or I've finished my task. What do I do next? What advice would you have if I was going to be an intern that I can really integrate into the business and make sure that I'm doing the things I should be doing?
Yeah. Well, Shashini can talk to this, but I really encourage interns to try to talk to the senior people in the business they join. And I know that can seem hard and intimidating, but I'll tell you, senior leaders really like it. We like to have young people or people who are just starting out at work seek advice, offer help, communicate, because sometimes it's, and I can talk about the experience we have with all our interns, and many of whom I've hired either here or in other businesses, or we've pushed out to other businesses that we have in our network for jobs. And the ones that we always find are the best are the ones who communicate most directly with us as senior leaders. And when I often say to some of our new interns, set up a time to meet with one of our other founders, they'll often feel a bit nervous about doing that, or a little bit sort of natural reluctance or reticence to do it. But you've got to do it. You've got to get out there. Make sure at work that you make yourself invaluable. And this goes for your internships. This goes for your job. Be there. Be the first one there. Be the last one to leave every single day. For the first part of your career. And we were talking about something yesterday as we were discussing what we were going to talk about today. If there are some really good statistics, if you work 10% longer, you end up earning 40% more. It's really straightforward, right? And I was telling the guys about an experience I had when I first started at work 100 years ago. I was the first one there every day. I got to work at 6:30 in the morning, and the CEO got there at 7. And I was just a kid, right, sitting in a cubicle. And every day I'd see him walk in. I see his head walk past down to his office. And after about a week and a half, I saw him walking in, and he stopped suddenly because he realized that I was there. And he kind of walked across to my cubicle, and he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I've just started here, Mr. O'Hara." And he just sort of smiled and nodded his head and then walked off. But over the next few weeks and months, I was always there. So I ended up having one-on-one time with him where he'd walk past my desk and shake his head and just say, "You're the hardest worker we've got here. You're from Australia." And I was living in Tokyo. I never thought Australians worked hard because I thought the country was too easy. But you completely changed my mind about that. Anyway, a year later, when we moved offices, and some of the staff got their own offices around the windows of the building. Most of them were guys in their 30s and early 40s. I was 24, and I got an office. And none of the other people did. They were all out in the cubicles. And the reason was, and no one complained about it, because everyone knew that I worked the hardest, right? I put in the hours. I devoted myself to it. And as a result, I got made a manager sooner. So my income went up, right? And that's how that extra effort working led to substantial change in income. So guys, Shashini, the reason I love Shashini is because I work long hours, and I'll be there at midnight, and Shashini will be there with me doing the work, 1 o'clock in the morning, asking me, "Is there anything else you need before I go to bed?" And I'm telling her to go to bed. I say, "You've got to stop working. go to bed, right? It's one of the reasons why, amongst a whole range of others, that helping Shashini, find all these job opportunities has been quite joyful. And I haven't had to do very much.
Hey,
honestly.
Tom. Hey,
Yeah.
Tom. Actually, Jared, I told you we should have taken Shashini for ourselves, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Tom, this is probably a good time to introduce our first question from a person called Ali. And she's an international, and she says that most times she feels a lack of confidence when talking with other people because of her accent. And she feels bad that perhaps other people can't understand her fully. What do you say about that?
Ali, I mean, and to everyone out there, Australia is a very, very multicultural country, right? Everyone in business is desperate to get good people in Australia. And, as I was saying to the guys yesterday, if you've got a master's degree, Australia is at full employment, right? There's medium-sized businesses desperately want good people. And it's really hard to find them. So if you're good, if you've got a master's degree, and we only ask for three things from people: work hard, be smart, and be honest. Everything else we can train for, right?
Hang on, Tom. You didn't mention anything there about marks, university, and skills.
No. Well, please, I mean, everyone don't get all hung up on universities, and there's that ranking system, but employers understand how expensive it is to come to Australia and study, right? And some of those, the Melbourne unis of the world or something, they're frighteningly expensive. And employers understand that that's not easy for anyone, particularly if you come from a country where the currency is not as strong as Australia's is, right? Australian dollar is quite a strong currency, right? So we understand that. I think that, it's something that we'll talk about a little bit more, but I think there are a lot of misconceptions around, what you need in Australia to be able to get a job here. Accent, I would not worry about your accent. I wouldn't worry about, wondering if you've got enough vocabulary. Obviously, try to learn English as well as you can. I always encourage people, find Australian friends. I lived in Japan for 5 years, and to my great dismay, I never learned to speak Japanese very well because I spent too much time just hanging around with other people who are from English-speaking countries, Australians, Americans, Canadians, and Brits. But when you're here, if you're from Sri Lanka like Shashini is, she's got a ton of friends who are Australian, right? If you spend your whole time just with other Sri Lankans, people from China, people from Japan, people from Colombia, wherever you're from, you kind of end up just still living in your home country, even though you're not there, right? If you're just constantly speaking in Spanish because you're Colombian, watching Colombian TV, talking to Colombian people, watching Colombian news, well, you're kind of living in Australia, but you're still living in Colombia. So embrace being in Australia and do as much as you can to learn English, but don't think that just because you've got a bit of an accent and you don't perfectly get the words out, that means that you're at any disadvantage. Australian businesses want smart people, not people who just can speak perfectly.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. And you've touched on a few really good points. Work hard, be smart, be honest. And I want to come back to that in 1 second. The hanging out with Australians part, I think is really important. When I moved to the UK, my biggest regret is I hung out with too many Aussies. I didn't make friends with other parts of the world. And I think the problem that a lot of students face is getting access to, professional people. And obviously doing an internship or getting a job is the best way to do that. But I wanted to duck in now to have a chat with Shashini and bring Shashini into the conversation, because you did talk about before how Shashini's managed to go and get employment from her internship. We heard yesterday that 6 job offers, and that just blows my absolute mind. But I wanted to start this conversation with Shashini in that Shashini goes to Central Queensland University, who CQU have gone out on a limb to guarantee every international student an internship. The first uni to really go out there and say, we are going to guarantee it. And they don't just say it, they actually follow through on it. And I know that Shashini was actually debating when COVID started whether she should do an internal project or do an internship. And she was really sitting on the fence about it and really not sure. But she decided to do an internship. And now it's ended up with her having a job. So Shashini, I want to throw over to you now to tell us your story and maybe start there where you're sitting on the fence about not sure what to do, and tell us all the little things you've done now that you have now been offered 6 jobs before you even finish your internship.
Yeah, thanks, Gerard. Actually, yes, I was on fence, deciding whether to do the internship or the project. Then I discussed with Dom and staff from Outcome and decided that I need to take on a challenge. One thing I need to tell everyone is, please don't be afraid to take challenges in Australia. Please take the challenges. It's true. I know, I have faced so many challenges here, but never be afraid to take one. Take the chances, grab the chances. So I took my chances with doing the internship, and I joined Zayzoon team, and I met Tom, who's my mentor. So he eventually led me to saying, not only me, he keep on saying everyone that we need to connect with that. The most powerful tool, if you need to get yourself a job, a career in Australia, LinkedIn is the main tool that you can access. So honestly, that is the only tool that I use. And just because I got 6 job offers, I don't want to let go of my responsibilities with Zayzoon. So you need to work hard. Now, if you want someone else to give you to really gain an opportunity, you need to work. Nine or 12 a.m. or 3 a.m. in the morning. There were times, honestly, I didn't even sleep in the beginning. And I learned there are things I learned which I never thought I will learn. This new software. Just because you think that you have done a master's in computer networking, do not think that you are supposed to find a job only in networking. Just there might be a job opportunity. I mean, you might be talented in some area. So I was actually somewhere like that. I thought I did masters in networking. So I was just focusing on, okay, I need to find a networking job. I need to become a network administrator. But suppose those jobs even doesn't exist anymore, network administrators. Then eventually I talked with Tom, and I realized that, okay, I'm talented in another way. I'm talented in designing, UX, UI designing. Then I learned the new courses. You need to work and learn new things also. It's not just about work. It's all about work and learning both. And we all have got time. It's an excuse, an excuse that we are making that we don't have time. We are international students. We need to go to the jobs, and you need to work hard. It might be even I went to some jobs and at till 1 a.m. after after doing the job, when I'm doing the job with an intern with Zayzoon, I had a one night job with when went with my partner, and I came home around at 1 a.m. Then thereafter also I worked on studying things. So what you sacrifice today will always find the opportunity for you. So please, then what I did was so I worked really hard, and the next thing was I really worked on my LinkedIn. Tom guided me to work on the LinkedIn. So do not make the mistake of waiting around after you have applied for active roles online, that hoping you will successfully proceed to applicant tracking systems and wash up on the show first against thousands of applicants. We know that we as international students, we come and we simply go to Seek, Jora, and apply to all that. We send our CVs through. Even I have done myself. Trust me, all these 6 job offers, I never applied a single one of them. They all came through to me. I didn't apply a single one. So like, it's all about communicating. And also like, so I just simply send them a message. When you're connecting with the people, like, check on which path you're going to. So I decided I want to be a UX UI designer. Then I checked on LinkedIn who are the best UX UI designers in Australia. Then I tried on connecting with them. So before that, I had a good profile picture. Trust me, I had to take 500 of pictures and send to Tom to get a new one. So you need to first get a good profile picture and get your LinkedIn done, and make sure you focus on what you need to do. And depending on that, make your LinkedIn profile and get connected to people. I had only 13 connections. Because in my country, I'm from Sri Lanka, because in our country, LinkedIn is not very useful. I mean, they are not using, just like in Australia. When I realized, okay, when Tom, Dom, and everyone is telling this is important, I really looked into that. From 13 connections to today, I have got 500 plus connections. And I have made sure, despite of those 13 connections, all the other people are Australians, mainly Australians. So you need to make sure that you connect with the right people. So I search into the CEOs and the founders, like the UX UI designers, pioneers in designing. I reach out to them, just send them a simple message. So what I was sent them was, hi, I hope you wouldn't mind reaching me out of blue. I really like to connect with you and getting to know you. Or else like go and search for the articles written by those people and then just send them a message. Hi, I read your article. That is really great. I would really like you to connect. Trust me, they really love that. They really love those kind of people. And all those CEOs, they really like the people who reach out to them. That's what I have understood from this. They really like. And just adding what to Tom said about like to talk to the people in your company. In our company at Zoom CEO, Ben, I was really afraid with talking to him at the beginning. And then I thought, no, I need to talk to everyone. I have been communicating with Tom and the marketing team and everyone in the team a lot. Then I thought, no, I need to communicate with him also. I need to get him to know me, and I need to get him to know him too. So I just sent them I just sent him an email. Hi, Ben, I would like to really have a chat with you and get some feedback on me. And after that, I was so happy. I was not afraid of him anymore. So don't be afraid. They're not going to eat you. It's like they will really tell you like what they have. Like they really have so many options because they have been in Australia for so many years.
Thank you so much, Shashini. And it's truly a terrific story. And there's going to be lots of questions that are going to come out of it. And Dom's got his hair standing up on his arm.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at the hairs on my arm. They're standing up because of what you have done, Shashini. I met you, before your internship. And for everyone, you're still in your internship. I think you've got a week to go or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
Right. And you've gotten 6 job offers from complete strangers that you've made part of your network. Just brilliant. Sorry, Jared, go on.
That's great. And part of working remotely as well is being flexible. So my partner's also working from home, and she started a Zoom meeting right on 11:30, and my Zoom completely cracked it. So I've actually moved spots whilst on this call. So this is all a part of life now, and you've got to be thinking flexibly and adaptively. But Tom, I want to throw over to you now. I want to get your perspective. You've watched Shashini for the last 10 weeks. You've actually mentored her. Mm-hmm. I want to get your perspective on what you've seen her do and the little things that she's done under your guidance. It's made such a big difference. It's actually changed her life. I want to get your perspective, Tom.
Okay, so a couple of things. I've spent like 2 hours with Shashini, right? I didn't do anything except point her, just give her a little bit of guidance. Shashini had it, right? She's got her master's degree. She keeps saying to me, thank you, Tom. I'm like, don't thank me. It's your 25 years of all that amazing hard work that you've done. And guys, if you're out there and you've come from your home country, you've made your way all the way to Australia, live here on your own, you've got your master's degrees or your bachelor's degrees, That's remarkable, right? It's not, you know, it's special. And Australian businesses are looking for people like you. So I want to kind of break things down just a little bit and why I got to Shashini the way that the way that we focus her. Australian businesses need good people, and there are not enough of them, right? There are just not enough. Every business I know of, medium-sized businesses and big businesses, have got huge gaps that they need to fill, right? But 85% of jobs in Australia occur through networks, not through Seek, not through job ads that go up. And let me tell you, I've been on the other side of job ads. I've put job ads up on Seek. And generally it's been when I've got a really hard job to fill, so it's got really specific requirements, and also when I haven't had enough budget to really hire someone for the amount of money that I need to pay. So I've had times where I've pressed, you know, push job application, push the job, you know, application up onto Seek, boom, you push it up, you turn away and look back and it says you have 7 new resumes. You're like, what? I put this up literally less than a minute ago. You click on the first resume to look at it. When you come back out, it says you have 36 new resumes. Then it says half an hour later, you've got 100 new resumes. As a hiring manager, going through those resumes is exhausting, right? Lots of them are not right. You're sifting through all these resumes. And what you do is you find 3 or 4 people who fit what you're after, and then you stop looking at the other resumes. So if you haven't sent your resume in the first 30 minutes, which is basically impossible, you just have to be lucky for that job to have popped up. If you haven't sent your resume in 30 minutes, probably the hiring manager, me, is never going to look at your resume. So, because once you've got those 3 or 4 resumes and you've shown them to other people in the business and they say, yes, we want to interview these people, then you stop because you just don't have time. Hiring managers are so busy often. So if you sent your resume an hour after the job went up, and that means you were looking before lunch, it wasn't there, you went and had lunch, you came back, and it says this job was posted 57 minutes ago, probably there are too many resumes already. But that's very, very hard when you're the candidate who wants the job, because you sit there and you think, I had all the skills, I've had the experience, I'm exactly the right person for this job, and they didn't even call me back, right? It's very easy to lose confidence in that situation. So some of those job sites, I think they're very difficult, and they'll make you feel like you're not worthwhile, but Australian businesses don't want international students, or any other number of things which aren't right, okay? So one of the things that we then look at is 85% of jobs happen through professional connections. And if you're an international student and you don't have an Australian network, well, this really good technology that's been developed over the last 10 or 15 years, it's called LinkedIn. 9 million Australians are on it. That means everyone who's in business is on it. And it's where they go to first to try and find people for jobs that they've got. And let me explain something else. If businesses use recruitment agencies, they have to pay something like 10 to 15% of the first year's salary to the recruitment agency. So someone who's earning $60,000 could cost the company an extra $10,000 just to hire them, right? So people will do everything they can to use their networks first to find people, right? So when Shashini sends a message off to someone who really needs a user experience designer, and that goes, and she sends it off to a CEO of that company or a senior person in management. I've been CEO of a whole bunch of companies. If I got Shashini's resume, I'd be like, yes, I don't have to spend $10,000 with a recruiter, right? So guys, you've got to do it on LinkedIn. And when I talk to international students, I sometimes think they're kind of talking at sort of like the level of a dog whistle, which humans can't hear, and employers are talking like whales communicate, really low resonance. They can't hear it either. So the international students are saying, I really want a job. All these Australian companies are saying, we really need good people. So there's this mutual alignment that's not coming together. LinkedIn brings it together, right?
Hey, Tom, I was just going to say, just in answering two questions have come up from the audience, and it's about, they say that they've got lots of LinkedIn connections, but when they send a note, they don't get a reply.
Yeah.
What do you have to say about relevant notes that you're sending off to people?
Well, look, I mean, I'd say a couple of things about LinkedIn. First of all, it's not Facebook, right? It's not just for your friends. You need to connect to relevant people. Second, 50%, 60% of people won't get back to you. They're too busy or whatever. But all you need is 30% who do, right? So if you're kind of thinking, I just want to connect with this one person, I think that's sometimes it doesn't work. And look, to give you, I had to open up a business in the US. I didn't have any connections over there. It was in the energy industry. I ended up I reached out to 2,000 people, right? 400 or 500 of them connected back. So that was like a 20% hit rate. And from that, we generated a large amount of business. So if you think just connecting to one or two people is enough and hoping that they'll connect back to you, it's not. And one of the things which I did with Shashini is, as she mentioned, go into the area you want to go into, find the people who've written articles, go and find the authors on LinkedIn and say, hi, John, hi, Sarah. I just read an article that you wrote 2 years ago. It was really interesting. It would be an honor to connect with you. Regards, Tom, right? All these articles that get written by people and published on the web, often they never get read. And so this poor person has thought, wow, I spent 2 days writing that article and no one read it. If you go back to them and say, I valued your article and it meant something to me, the author of the article never feels happier. Wow, someone actually took something away from all my hard work in writing that. And you're playing to their ego a little bit, so they'll absolutely connect back with you. And they'll offer you anything you want, right? Because they're sort of going, thank you for making all that time that I spent now feel more worthwhile. So you've got to use different strategies. Write notes to people, but don't just write, hi, I want to connect, right? You have to kind of think about, and if it looks really generic, if it looks like you send the same message to everyone, it's really obvious, right? I get 100 people trying to connect with me every week, and most of them I don't connect with because their message is so bland, it doesn't look like it's been thought through. But if someone said to me, rather than, hi, I'm trying to expand my professional network, can we connect? Regards, whoever. I'm like, that's not really, I'm not gonna connect with you. But if it said, hi Tom, I was really interested in your profile, or you've written this article, or there's a, if I could see that someone had taken the time to work out who I was, then I'd much more likely say yes. And I go through with our team the connections that people try to make to me and whether or not I'll connect with them. You guys, you've got to have a good LinkedIn photo. Look up Shashini and have a look at her picture. It needs to look professional, right? And that to look professional, it needs to look like how you would dress at a business on a Friday in Australia. So it can be a little bit casual, right? But you need to be wearing a shirt, like maybe an open neck white shirt. You need to have your hair done. If you wear makeup, you need to imagine it like you're going into work on Friday, but you've got a really important meeting with some people from outside. So you need to have that good photo. It's not Facebook. You can't look too smiley and happy, right? But you don't want to look kind of glum and scowling and, right? You have to look friendly and smart, right? So take a photo up against a blank wall, right? Head and shoulders. Again, have a look at Shashini, have a look at me. And Shashini and I said something before this this webinar, we'll connect to any one of you guys who tries to connect with us. But if your photo's bad, I'm not connecting with you, right? If you don't send me a message that's tailored and says I was on that call, I'm not connecting with you. And that should become a standard for how you consider your connections on LinkedIn.
Hey, Tom, is a picture of you graduating from your bachelor's degree with that stupid hat with the thing hanging down and a bunch of flowers and a teddy bear. Is that a good picture for LinkedIn?
No. Guys, you're not students anymore. You're going to move into the workforce. So you need to look like an executive, not like a kid, right? You've got to look like you're beyond being a student and you're ready to work. So if you've got a picture there that is, you need to think about what it looks like to work and live in Australia, right? So I lived in Japan for 5 years, and in Japan, there's a very sort of specific things that you need to do when you work, right? You don't have a beard, for instance, right? So you're clean shaven, right? Everyone wears a white shirt, a tie, and a blue coat, blue jacket. So I always wore that because I needed to work in Japan. And so I needed to conform with some of the ways that, Japanese people were so that they felt comfortable working with me. You guys have got to think about exactly the same thing, right? Where you need to think, how do people dress and behave and work in the field that I want to go into? I want to be an IT engineer. I want to be a marketing manager. I want to be user experience. I want to be a graphic designer. How do people dress? So you can't at the moment, look up some videos of people walking around in the city in Melbourne or Sydney or wherever everyone's from and how they're dressed on a Friday for work, right? And that's how your profile's got to look.
And Tom, I'm glad you've talked about dress, photos, because a lot of people don't appreciate that communication is actually more so about your body language, your actions, and how you look, as opposed to what you actually say. And so it's really important that people are actually thinking about this, about what their image is portraying and their actions as well. You had a quote this morning, I think you mentioned about, don't tell me how hard you work, show me how hard you work, or something about that.
But show, don't tell.
Yeah.
Look at Shashini laughing because we talk about this all the time. And everyone, if you've got a good LinkedIn photo, it gets 14 times more visits than a bad one. 14 times. So if you've got a bad photo, and I know, right? I'm always trying to hire people. I've hired hundreds of people, right? And so as soon as I see a LinkedIn profile that's got a blurry photo that's not very relevant, I just go straight past it to the next one. Because what you're showing me is that you don't understand how Australian business works, right?
Also, so I was going to say, Tom, you would have noticed on LinkedIn this green circle that's appeared on the outside saying ready to hire. And I had an international student ask me about that the other day saying, what do I think about that? And I said, it's the worst feature LinkedIn has ever produced on LinkedIn.
It's saying don't hire me.
Yeah. Oh, we had one or two people who had that on their profile and I was like, get that off right now, right? Get a professional photograph of you there and show that you understand how to work in Australia, right? Don't put in your jobs that you worked as a barista or a cleaner or waiting tables at a restaurant. LinkedIn is about your professional resume. Everyone understands that as a student, you do part-time work. But if you're an IT engineer and you put down that you wash dishes somewhere, well, what are you telling me? That you want another job washing dishes? So get rid of all that stuff. It needs to be relevant, right? It needs to be well written.
Speaking of that, Tom, I noticed on Shashini's LinkedIn profile, she doesn't say, I am an intern at Zayzoom.
No.
When I look at her profile, I just assume that she's an employee that's been with you for quite a while and is doing amazing work.
Yep.
Why doesn't she say she's an intern?
Well, I mean, we've specifically asked all our interns to take that off because it makes our business look bigger if we've got more people, not just these sort of student interns. But I think the importance of not having that there, and you probably need to ask the person who you're working with in the company if they're happy for you to do that, and they always will be, but just maybe ask the question first, it makes it look like Shashini's very valuable to us. And, you know, a number of the other people, Shashini's had the most job offers, but lots of our other interns who set up their profiles properly have got 2 or 3 job offers, right? The idea that there aren't jobs out there is crazy, because Shashini could have handed out 5 other jobs aside from the one that she took. People are looking and they need good people. So by saying on your LinkedIn profile that you're actually working there as a business analyst, you know, as a software engineer, whatever it is you're doing, it makes it look like, wow, that business thought they were good enough to hire them. So they're obviously very valuable.
And the important thing,
again,
so the important thing to think about is that if you're doing a 12-week internship, you've actually signed a 12-week contract. You are there for 12 weeks to do a particular role. And so it's fine, put on LinkedIn that you are a business analyst or a marketing coordinator, whatever it is. And, and we talked about this yesterday. The way psychology works is that when you're not working, people think something's wrong with you. As soon as you're working, people want you, because they see Tom's got you. And like, well, I want if Tom backs her, then I want that person in my business. And I think that's gone a long way to Shashini getting 6 job offers, is that the fact you're now working at Zayzoon, people they look at your profile and like, oh, she's working, that's good. You know, I've heard of Zayzoon. Look at the other people that work there. She must be good. I want to give her an opportunity.
Yeah, completely agree with that, 100%. I do it when I'm looking for people. The first thing I do is try and work out who they are. So honestly, I'll try and find them on Facebook. I'll try and find them on Instagram. I'll try and find them on LinkedIn, on Pinterest, whether they've written any articles. If they're a developer, I look them up on GitHub. You try and build a picture of who this person is before you're going to spend time interviewing them or potentially training them. So make sure that all of your digital personality looks good, right? You know, make sure you look friendly. Make sure you've got a full digital profile, that you look friendly, that you look popular, that because that's all. Half of it's having good skills and half of it's having a good personality at work, right? And as you get more senior in business, it's probably more about the personality than the skills. So make sure you look good online. If you're an IT person and you've got hundreds and hundreds of comments and uploads onto GitHub, that's very powerful. It's like everyone's asking this person questions and he or she's answering them. Obviously, this person's kind of like an expert in the area. Shashini's connected to a huge number of user experience people on LinkedIn. So when anyone looks at her profile, they say, look at all her connections. She's right in the middle of the world of user experience. This is exactly the person I want. So the other thing that's really, really critical to understand about LinkedIn is that there's a tool called LinkedIn Recruiter. And that allows a hiring manager, if they buy it from LinkedIn, to see 3 levels of connection away from them. So one of the reasons that Shashini keeps popping up in everybody's searches is because now she's got so many connections. I've got 5,000 connections on LinkedIn, right? And so if all of my connections have got 500 connections, suddenly Shashini is visible to 2.5 million people. And I reckon that's probably every senior manager in Australia, right? So if you've got 34 connections and they're all from your home country, you never appear in searches. So you've got to make these 500 connections as fast as you can. And again, as we were talking about, show, don't tell, right? You need to show that you understand business in Australia. Sorry, Jared.
No, that's great. And I think the point there is too, in week 1 of your internship or your first role, connect with everyone in the organisation. Hey, I'm Shashini. I just started at your company. Can I please connect with you on LinkedIn? Very targeted. No one will say no to that, and you should do it. But I do want to jump off LinkedIn now because we are going to run out of time. So before, Dom, you probably want to run through some questions from the people in the audience. Tom, you mentioned before, work hard, be smart, be honest. Mm-hmm. What do you mean by the be honest part?
Well, you know, if you've got someone who's really, really smart and works really hard and they're dishonest, that's really scary because they could do a lot of damage to your business. But I think just, the be honest bit is like, if you say you're going to do something, do it, and do it as fast as you can and as well as you can, right? The be smart is think about how you can do your work well and quickly and get it done. But that honesty thing is, when you speak, just be straightforward about what you're saying. Don't hide away. You need to get out there and make yourself visible. As I said, we've got 10 interns at the moment, and Shashini and a couple of others, they're always talking to me. So I'm very aware of them. And I'm always thinking, I get lots of people asking me, hey, do you have a good person who can do this? And I'm like, the first person in my mind is Shashini or Naduni, who's one of our other interns at the moment. Or Della, who's one of our girls from Colombia, right? So, you need to sort of be in the front of mind to people. We've got a couple of interns who I've offered lots of opportunities for me to do one-on-one sessions with them to help them with their LinkedIn. And they haven't come back to me, right? So if someone says, do you have someone who's good? I won't offer them. I won't mention them because they're not in the front of my mind. But, that honesty and integrity about doing the work you say you're going to do, working hard, right? And you must not think of this internship as, look, I'm just doing it for my permanent residency. Because if you do, it's so obvious. It is so obvious. You need to get in there, work hard, and then ask the people in the business, how do I get a job? And it's really natural. Like, I sit there with Shashina, I go, oh my gosh, she's done so much work for us. How can I not help her? I have to help her. I'm obligated to, because she's done all this work for us. So I'll do everything I can. Introduce her to people, reach out. And if she didn't get a job now, I'd feel personally like responsible for here's this person who's done all this for me and I haven't been able to do something back for them.
Tom, can you very quickly tell us about Isabella, who worked with you as an intern, and how she came about to get a job?
Yeah. So Isabella came to us as an intern. She was doing social media marketing. We trained her. She was a sponge for information. She wanted to learn everything. I'd give her pieces of technology to learn to use. She'd come back after the weekend and know how to use them. And she was amazing. Great personality, really always working hard, working outside of hours, friendly at work, spent a lot of time asking me questions, asking me for advice. So as her internship was coming to a close, I actually had someone, the founder of a business I used to run, sent me a message and said, oh, I need a good marketing person. I said, Isabella, right? She went over there and met with them. They came back and said, wow, she's amazing, right? She's from Brazil. Her English is not great, but she's friendly. She's well-meaning. She's passionate about what she does. They hired her, right? She did some incredible work in the first 3 weeks. They hired her as the social media marketing manager. After 3 weeks, her work was so good, they got rid of the marketing manager and they promoted her into the marketing manager role. Right?
That is absolutely.
So, and guys, seriously, this was someone who a month before wasn't sure how, or 2 months before didn't know if she was ever going to work in Australia. I think, and I'm not sure about this, I think she's earning about $80,000 a year, and she'll be earning, 40% more than that in 12 months' time.
Wow. So one thing we haven't touched on, and it is all about communication, and this answers a number of questions on the Q&A at the moment, is how do you communicate with people, assuming COVID's not over, COVID doesn't exist, meetups, things like that. Do you encourage your interns to attend meetups in their industry to meet with people?
Yeah, look, I think they're good. I mean, the one thing I'd say about meetups, definitely go to them, but, they're time consuming. You can do so much more on LinkedIn, right? So definitely go to meetups. Go to meetups with where you can meet Australians and talk to Australians and understand how Australian business works and develop those networks. But, you know, guys, Shashini made 100 new connections in one day on LinkedIn, right? Yeah, if you go to a meetup, you can probably talk to 5 or 6 people meaningfully, and it takes you a few hours, right? So the power of LinkedIn is profound. I'm definitely in favor of going to some meetups, but you know what? Oftentimes the CEOs aren't there, the hiring managers aren't there, other people are. So they're very, very useful to hear from different people, to get a greater understanding of the Australian business. Go to all of Outcomes meetups because they're really good. I've been to a number of them and they're great. So, you know, I'd sort of use the information that Outcome sends out to pick and choose the meetups you go to, because they'll find the good ones, right? The meaningful ones.
And to add to that too, Tom and Dom, is that I think you don't go to a meetup to get a job, right? You have the wrong intentions if that's what your plan is, and you're disingenuous. But you go there to practice your skills. Networking is a skill, and you need to practice. Walking up to someone and introducing yourself can be bloody daunting. But the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel with it. Making small talk with people who maybe the only thing they care about is AFL footy and you don't even know about footy, or maybe they care about rugby or cricket, or maybe they care about fashion design. Making small talk with people when you have different interests is a skill. And that's something you've got to develop from a very early age, because then when you get in the professional environment and you bump into Tom while you're making a cup of tea, you've already been practicing how to make small talk with Tom. And I think that's a really important part about building your communication skills.
And so it's 2 minutes past 12. We normally finish on time, but I think that this is so important for international students that we might go just a little bit further, if that's okay with you guys. And I'm going to do some rapid fire questions. So really short, succinct answers. So the very first one from Dheeraj. Now, Dheeraj is talking about how he's doing his capstone project. He sees all this technology he has no idea about, and he's losing confidence. Mm-hmm. Jared, actually, you just mentioned that by creating small talk and so forth, that's going to increase his confidence. Agree?
Yeah.
Speaking with people, connecting with people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'd say, look, there's so much different technology out there. It's impossible to know more than a few % of it. So don't get sort of daunted by the fact that there are 65 different programming languages and frameworks and all these other things. Really focus. If it's IT technology, good IT people are people who've got good analytical skills and can think how to write code well. It's not about just knowing 400 different pieces of technology, because IT, when I hire IT people, I don't care what languages they know, right? I care about the fact that they're smart and they can think logically to write good computer programming algorithms. We do a tiny test. It's called the Fizz test. It takes 3 minutes. That determines for me whether or not they're going to be a good program with us. They can learn the language when they get there.
Okay. And I think, Tom, it's important to pick a couple of languages. It could be marketing, right? So maybe it's using Canva, maybe it's using Lucidchart, maybe it's using Hootsuite. Pick a couple of them, learn them, go deep into those ones, because then you can branch off in all the other software. But don't get overwhelmed by hundreds and thousands of them. Pick a handful and learn them.
Cool. And just on the marketing thing, marketing's a big area for me. Anyone who's on this call, if they've got a good LinkedIn photo and they send me a specific message and talk to you about marketing, I'll talk to you about the 5 bits of technology you need to learn, and that's it. If you know all them, you will never stop working.
What are they? Just very quickly, Tom.
Photoshop, InDesign, Premiere, Adobe XD, and maybe like one other thing in that Adobe suite. If you've got those, they're easy to learn, and a lot of people will think that's not true. But Shashini can tell you that 6 weeks ago she couldn't use any of them. Now she uses all of them like a professional.
Hey, Shashini, can you please put them in the chat so that people can, copy it? Here's another one. So Tom, from Man Singh, do you put your casual work into your LinkedIn? Yes or no?
No.
Okay.
Unless it's specific to what you're doing. If you're a software engineer and you're building, a software platform for someone, but no, it's of no interest to an employer that you've washed dishes or worked in a restaurant or any of that.
Well, Tom, sorry, jump in, Dom. Ask it a bit differently. What if you haven't worked in a professional environment before? The only job you've done, like me when I was 21, was steam cleaning carpets. I haven't had a professional job yet. I'm trying to get my first professional job. Wouldn't it show that I've at least gone and done some work that had to deal with customer service and to be able to show to people?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Because the way I've built my profile up over time is that I've dropped things off along the way. So I wouldn't have the steam cleaning carpets there now. But 15 years ago, I did. But as I got more and more experience, I dropped the ones that became less relevant away.
Yeah. Sort of the way that I'd sort of look at it at someone's resume is that I expect when they're studying, particularly if they're an international student, that they're having to do some work, and that to get out here, short of having an incredibly wealthy family who can just fund you the whole way in, that it requires lots of work, lots of part-time stuff. So just having come here and done that work, in fact, so maybe you could leave it in. What I'd be more interested to see, and Shoshani will tell you this, the second question I ask every single candidate, what are your hobbies? Basically from what's your name, what are your hobbies? Do I have someone in front of me who's interesting, who's engaged, right, with the world? And when someone says to me, oh, my hobbies are sleeping and watching TV, that's not good enough, right?
How about cross stitch, Tom? I had one that put cross stitch.
I've never done cross stitch, but I imagine it's kind of hard to do. But what I want to see is someone who's got a passion for something, right? And that they've dedicated themselves to it and they've gone about acquiring the skills to kind of become good with it, or to have that sort of, to be interesting. People who read, right? People who, so try and, have a hobby of some sort. Sorry.
Okay, so Tom, Gabriella asks, do you recommend putting together a portfolio of your work?
Absolutely. Make sure the portfolio is good. Get it, because it shows that you know what you can do. If I sit here and I tell you, I'm the best graphic designer you've ever seen, right? Well, what does that mean? It doesn't mean anything, because it's just me self-evaluating myself. But if you say, don't trust me, just there's my portfolio, then me as the hiring manager, I can make the decision whether you're a good graphic designer or not. And Shoshani will tell you, don't put on your resume, I'm hardworking and I'm dedicated, right? Well, it's expected that when you come to work that you're hardworking and dedicated, right? I'm results oriented. Always think about what's the reverse of that. Would anyone put on their profile, I'm not results oriented, I'm not dedicated and I don't work hard, I'm a bit lazy, right? Try and don't self-assess, right? Put down the things that you've done, right? Instead of saying, I'm really good at marketing, what I put is I grew our customer numbers by 400% in 1 year, right? Now, I'm not telling you what I think I am. I'll let you assess whether or not you think that's good or bad, right? Because I had someone who said to me that they were a really good manager. And I'd just come back from America and I'd been dealing with the founders at Google. And so I'm like, all right, you think you're a good manager, do you? Well, I've just been dealing with the founders at Google. Do you reckon you're like as good as them or what? How are you assessing yourself? So try and make it much more, do the things that you did. And if you're putting down your casual job, I got Employee of the Month 4 times. That tells me you're good, right? But, think about what you did at university, or think about some of the things that you did. If it can be more objective, not subjective, right?
So, and I think being evidence-based there is what's really important, Tom. And
Yes.
Dom, I'm going to jump in on 2 of your questions here, Dom. So sorry to steal your thunder, but there's 2, and I think it's important. One's from Nita and one's from Anal. And they both asked the same question, but one's from Indonesia and one's done a finance and investment degree. And they've both asked the question whether they should do more study. And the reason I want to raise it with you, Tom, is because of the experience we had with Argo, who is now your CFO, who you think is going to be one of your greatest ever employees you've ever had. When he graduated, he was going to go and do another accounting course because he did not feel confident yet to go to the workforce. And I met him and I shook him and said, Argo, no, you've got to take a different path. Quickly talk us through the path that Argo decided to take instead, and where is he now?
So Argo, I have a great relationship with Outcome, so I get some of their good people. Anyway, Argo came across, he was 22, 23, he's now 24. He just finished his master's degree in accounting, and he actually said to me in the meeting, I'm thinking of doing more study. The moment I met him, I was like, wow, this guy's special, right? He's really good. And he was saying to me, oh, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I said, Argo, come on, you've got your master's degree. If you want to do something else, do it in 6 years, 7 years time. Go and do your MBA in America or whatever, right? But start working. Stop. Seeing someone with 10 degrees always scares me a little bit, because it's like, is there something wrong? Like, why haven't you gone out and started working? Like, degree after degree after degree after degree. And Shashini and Naduni will tell you, I've asked them to take a lot of the diplomas and stuff they've done and just bury them in the bottom of the resume. Do your undergraduate degree, guys, and get to work. If you're here doing your master's degree, you've done plenty. Go and get a job, because as an employer, we don't care about the stuff that you've done at university, really. The truth is that all we want to see is you were set tasks at university and you managed to achieve those tasks, right? Because it's literally the difference between, you know, playing Call of Duty and then calling yourself a Special Forces soldier, right? It's theoretical, right? You're gonna start. you're gonna get all your experience in the workplace. That's where it's real. That's kind of.
Three more questions, Tom.
Sure.
Yes or no? Should international students do an internship?
Yes.
Shashini.
Yes.
Shashini, should international students do an internship?
They must. They should. They must.
Last one for you. This is a really good question from an anonymous person. What's in it for you? Why do you have 10 interns in your business?
Well, because they're generally amazing, right? We've got limited budgets for some things. I know that this works both ways, right? We've got amazing. You want to see the stuff that Shashini's made for us? Like, it's just unbelievable. And so many of our other guys, the stuff that they've put together over that time, they do real meaningful work. They get experience, and then we've got enough connections in the world to be able to send them out to good places.
And what would both of you say to the naysayers out there who just want to poo-poo unpaid internships and say that it's exploiting international students? What would you like to say to them?
You've just done effectively a 2-year master's degree that was unpaid, right? You actually had to pay to do it. And now there's this 12 weeks at the end of it, which can launch your career in Australia. And you're sort of saying, I don't want to do that. Like, consider it an extension of your master's degree, that final bit of the runway that gets you to take off, right? Because if you see Shashini at the start of the internship and who Shashini is now, like, we have a lot of our interns who say, I learned more in the internship than I did in my master's degree. 2 years of, and Shashini, I mean, I'll hand over to you on that one, but lots of them say the same thing.
I got to add something. Do not just think that, okay, we are not getting paid. Please don't think that. Just love your work. Like, we had to work only 32 weeks for the internship. I worked throughout weekend with them. I worked on Fridays. I worked on Saturdays, Sundays. Like, just love what you do. Don't think like, okay, we are not getting paid, so we don't have to do much of the work. We just need to do whatever the work that they are giving to it, and that would be enough. We don't know, then it will not give you do good to you.
And think about, if I'm introducing Shashini to a connection of mine who's potentially going to hire her, my reputation is kind of on the line a little bit if they hire her and she doesn't work out. So I need to introduce people who I know are going to kill it. And with Isabella, she's absolutely killing it there. So my reputation's gone up. I know when Shashini goes off to the business that she's going to, the founder of whom is a very, very powerful he sold his business for $300 million or something. So Shashini's now moving into a world. He's got 10 businesses. She will move throughout those businesses, I have no doubt, right? So the 12 weeks of work she did, first of all, she learned a lot. Maybe she didn't get paid, but it set her on a trajectory that will pay itself off hundreds of times over for her in the future. So that notion of poo-pooing the idea of internships is crazy.
And I think the lesson there is too, and Shashini did this, act like an employee. Like, you're going to be inside the organisation. And you raise a good point there, Tom. You actually get turning up to that organisation for free. You have to pay to go to uni. You don't have to pay to go to your internship. So it's actually even way better. So, Tom, we could talk for another hour with you. We know that. We had a planning session yesterday for 40 minutes. It went for an hour and a half. We really, really appreciate your insights. Shashini, thank you so much for joining us. We are so proud to hear of your successes. And I think what we love the most, Shashini,
jobs, Jared.
What we love the most is that we firmly believe if you put the hard work in, it will happen for you. It happens 100% of the time. The people where it doesn't happen for them, they do it half-assed. They do it lazily. The ones that do what you've done, Shashini, they always end up in a professional job all the time. And you are a perfect living example of that. Tom, we want to thank you as well. The amount of effort and time you put into interns and all international students is just exceptional. I almost want to hold you up as a beacon to every business in Australia, saying, here's how you do it. Here's how you embrace interns. Here's how you get value from it. And here's how you make sure they get value from it. Because I think 90% of anyone that's done internship at your company is now working in their professional field. And we can't do enough for the mentorship that you personally provide them.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd sort of say, to all the students out there, you've come all the effort and expense and everything to come and study in Australia. If you go home, back to your home country, without having tried to work here for a couple of years, to me, that's a bit of a tragedy, right? Like, maybe you can go home and you speak English a bit better, but you spend a huge amount of time, a huge amount of money, a huge amount of effort. And Australian companies pay really well globally, right? So you've got an opportunity to work in one of the wealthiest countries in the world, right? And if you just kind of say, oh, it's all a bit too hard because I didn't try that much, and go back home, to me, that's a bad outcome, right, for you guys. And it's a bad outcome for Australia, because Australia needs lots of good people, and we need lots more of them. You're here, you're engaged in Australia. If it doesn't work out, then we all lose. Businesses lose, Australia loses, you guys lose. So, guys, work really hard. Work with Outcome. They've got the best sort of vector for you being able to get your career off the ground in Australia. And do an internship. Work as hard as you can at it. Focus on it. Care about it. And, Australia's just this, it's like a golden road full of opportunities. Don't think it's not.
And you're a walking example too, Tom, that we hear from a lot of international students, Australian businesses will not hire us. Well, it's absolute crap, because
absolute rubbish.
They do.
And Gerard, I would like to tell only one more thing to everyone. Just make sure that you keep on engaging the conversations. Just because you just connected with them, don't end up the conversations. Just keep on going them. I always do it. People just send a connecting message, the connecting note, and then thereafter, no, they couldn't even be found. Just make sure that you keep on engaging. I obviously got two to three messages from all those one people who asked me to send my CV to, let's meet up for a coffee after this. So even though I do not accept whether I accept or not accept their job offer, it's great to have people in contact. So make sure you keep on engaging with the conversation.
It's a really good point. You guys are selling yourself to a company, right? And there's a very famous thing in sales that it takes 7 touches to close the sale. Most salespeople stop after 2, right?
Yeah. And I love the fact, Shashini, that from where you started from 11 weeks ago, you are now actually a professional networker. It's just brilliant. It shows that everyone can do it with practice and mentoring, but for the rest of your career, you look at how in 11 weeks, your network has grown exponentially. Imagine what it's going to be like in 10 years' time. It's going to put us all to shame. So well done. We are going to wrap it up there.
Shashini has promised me the only thing which I demanded from her is that she gives me a job when I'm old.
And
it'll be her personal assistant.
Just let her pay, get a lot of salary and pay lots of tax to pay for our pensions, Tom.
Yeah.
And we've recorded this, Shashini, so when Tom is old and frail, this video
I'm bringing it back to her.
The job.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, so much for joining in. Thanks again to Study New South Wales for making this all possible. The next webinar is on the 22nd of September. We're going to be covering the commerce field. So we will be having CPA, so Chartered Practicing Accountants Australia, are going to join us. We're going to have another case study there as well. For anyone that's in finance, brokering, accounting, anywhere in that commerce field, we're going to be discussing tips and tricks to break in. Thanks again, everyone. Have a lovely afternoon.
Stay safe.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Okay, everyone.